welcome. Welcome to this wonderful episode of Journey of an Entrepreneur, where we have an amazing guest that will be coming and sharing his story with all of us. But before I do, my name is Shri. I'm a video marketing producer and I help entrepreneurs create engaging videos. And so today it's all about challenges and how to get through them and navigate through them. Last week, I had a 5-day video challenge, and there was definitely a few challenges that came across last week. So, my guest tonight, I was on his podcast. He actually has two podcasts, and he is a peer support specialist. I'm so honored to have my guest come on. His name is Sean Young. Hello,
What?
hello, Sean. How's it going for you?
It's good. It's good. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
What's going on, Dan? As you come in, you know what? Let us know where you're tuning in from because I would love to know. So, Sean, what is your favorite color?
It's changed over time, and I actually asked my tattoo artist this yesterday because I was interested, and he gave me a really good answer. He said it depends on what I'm using and what I'm using it on, but uh, I will say red, black, or fire burnt orange.
Those are some pretty bold colors. And I love asking that question because it's really intriguing what people like. Now, of course, I don't know if I gave it away with the purple and the blue, but but it's interesting to hear like fire, burnt orange, or red or black. But why is it that these colors stand out to you?
So I think black primarily because it's a combination of all the colors together, right? Versus white being the absence of all color. But black goes great with anything, right? I can put a black shirt on and wear a blue hat and it looks great. Red is the color of attraction. I've always found red just like appealing. Doesn't matter like what it was. And vibrant orange is a new favorite color. I got a hat that had it, and I was just in love with it. Absolutely in love with it. And actually, this hat has fiber and orange on it. So yeah, it's become my new favorite color. It to me it feels like a sunset, right? Like I'm looking at a sunset. It's peaceful, it's calming, and that's the new direction I'm moving in my life. So it's cool to represent that color.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up that it gives you a calmness, it gives you a direction into your new chapter. So, how did you get into peer support specialist, or how did you become one and why?
Oh, so it's a long, long story. Short version is I got in some trouble in 2019. I ended up in jail, and my life was complete chaos. I was in active addiction. I just gotten out of the army, and I just had no direction in life. I entered into recovery and got sober. I've been 3 years sober now. It's great. I love my life. And so after my journey in recovery, one of my counselors came to me and said, "Hey, man, you would be a great peer support specialist." And I looked at him and said, "What is that?" He said, "I don't know, but go check out the person who can give you the answer." So started going and attending the training. And I learned quickly that a peer support specialist is somebody that uses their experience with addiction and mental health disorders to help people recover from their own. And we're not counselors, but we're people that walk that path with you, right? We've been there. We know what the feeling is like, and so we walk step by step. We cannot make the decisions for you, but we can definitely give you what we did and how it can help you. And so I started doing that. I started working for a clinic, and then I started stepping into the realm of helping veterans because I myself am a veteran. I can relate better with veterans. And so I started working with veterans in the state of Alaska. That's originally where I lived before I came and moved. And I've been there ever since. I do my meetings over Zoom every Wednesday night, and we have a wide variety of topics that we cover, but they're all something to get the participants to think and really, really stop their busy day and just say, okay, this is something I need to think about. I got to do some deep digging so I can give a formidable answer.
I say thank you for serving for our country and what you're doing. Many talk about it, but don't know how to get started. And that is ask for help.
Yes.
And I know that you said that during your calls, you're talking about different topics. So, for someone who's watching and they're a veteran, or is it, and before I get into that question, do you focus mostly on men or do you focus on females or it's a mixture?
So first off, I want to say thank you for your support. Without the country, I wouldn't be able to do what I do or have done what I did. But I work with a mixture of veterans, men and women. It doesn't matter. I feel that it's important to reach the community in which I served, right? Because I took so much away from that community when I was in my active addiction, and I was just acting like a fool, running amok. It's time for me to give back to my community, so it doesn't matter men or women. I work with them all.
Now, going back to my question, when asking for help, when did you know in your own journey you needed help?
When I was sitting, it's funny, when I was sitting in the jail cell and I was just complaining about how life was unfair and like blaming everybody for my problems, right? And it's odd who steps in your path. It's destiny. Somebody comes along and they say, "Hey," they give you that proverbial gut check, and I got a gut check, and it came in the form of an old Native man, and he looked at me, Alaskan Native man. He looked at me. He said, "When you learn to accept that you've created all these problems in your life as an adult, you'll be better, and you'll learn to strive and be better." And so at first I mean, the instant reaction for me was like, man, screw you. Like, who are you? You don't know me. But I sat
Mhm.
there and I thought about it, and he was absolutely correct. I created all my problems in my life. And I realized the only way to fix it was to admit that I needed help and that I was powerless over everything that I was putting into my system.
The line, when you take ownership, so many of us are not wanting to take ownership. We're saying, okay, the challenge was didn't and go the way that I wanted. It's their fault. Or because I'm in this, I took these drugs and I decided to do this, but it's because of these problems that you gave them to me. That's why I did it. That ownership piece is mind blowing. It's that one time you realize, wait a minute, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I decided to take it and I decided to put myself here. So I know for some, when they have that realization, it affects them positively or negatively. For those who take it negatively, how do you help them walk through that?
You have to the one thing that I tell them is give yourself some grace because you're a human being. You're not perfect. We weren't there's no manual on life that says this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. We have our moral compasses, we have our ethics, right? But there is no book, no guideline that says this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. Especially if you come from a history of trauma, if you have observed your parents in active addiction, it's you have that much more of of a risk to be put in those positions to open yourself up to addiction, and we don't even realize it. So I tell them, give yourself some grace, realize that you are a human being, you mess up, but it's about learning from those mistakes and stopping that cycle of insanity that you've put yourself in for how long. For me, it was 12, 13 years.
Wow. So you were addicted for 12, 13 years?
Yep.
And
Yep.
this is even during the time of your service
Yep.
or
Yep. When I joined the army, my first duty station was in Europe, and there is no drinking age in Italy. So I just went haywire. I drank like I was a professional drinker, and I was hooked immediately. I had some time where I was sober, but it was for other people, right? It wasn't for me. I didn't have the desire to quit drinking. I just didn't want to feel the pain of losing other people. I'd lost a lot of people at that, up to that point. So I said, I'm gonna quit because I don't want to lose you. And then when they left, I just had no reason to be sober.
Wow. That we do things for other people. I know that I always make the joke and I'm like, I'm going to get fit for somebody's birthday. But really I'm getting fit for myself. I really am. It's really because I want to see the next birthday. I want to see and meet my grandchildren. We got a comment here from Dan who shares, I've been in addiction recovery. I know how hard it is just to sit on the chair and say the prayer the first time. The strength is monumental. So I can just imagine you've got somebody who's walked in, they're kind of like, what is this? What am I doing? um, how do you make sure that they come back? Because sometimes we don't, right? Like
Yeah.
we go back to what, or maybe they've been coming for a while, and then they just stop.
Mhm. Well, see, sometimes we're not all not every time that we go into the rooms for the first time are we ready, right? Like I said, I had been sober many times, but I wasn't working a program I was doing for other people. There's that realization when you get into the room, and then even when people do start coming, they want to pick apart the program, right? They say, there's that God thing. I don't like it. So I'm not coming back. Sorry, smack the mic. You know, or they say, there's that surrendering thing. I'm not ready to surrender everything. It's one of those programs we have to accept it, everything, and really dive deep into it, because if we look at things from a perspective of that God thing, we're going to miss everything else in the way. So giving people the grace to say, hey, we want you back. You're not needed back, because I believe that there's a difference between wanted and needed. You're wanted back. We don't need you back, but you're wanted back. So when they come back, then you give them that grace to say welcome back, and then it becomes a family, and then you start building that community.
I loved how you said you're wanted, but you're not needed. And I can imagine, even I was just in, if anybody's watching right now, how did that make you feel? You're wanted, but you're not needed. Because so many times we want to feel needed, but
Yeah.
there's a difference. So, what's in your eyes, what's the difference between being needed and being wanted?
Being needed, in my perspective, in my opinion, is kind of like, I need the numbers to survive, right? It's like analytics. If we look on YouTube, if you're a podcaster, you look on YouTube and you want to keep those numbers high. So, we look at the analytics and the statistics, and we say, oh goodness, we're not meeting our quota. That's a need. But if you want it back, if you want that, then you change your content so that it is desired. And I see that the need and the want. The want is the desire. I want to see you back. I want to see you succeed. I don't need to see you succeed. My life is not depending on it. I want to see you succeed.
Now that we are kind of talking about podcasting and YouTube, so during your own journey, at what point did you realize, hey, I want to start a podcast or I want to be on YouTube, and what were the steps that you did to get onto there?
Oh goodness, I've wanted to share my story for the longest time. I wanted, to be about a podcaster and give people the opportunity and the space to share their story, because I think it's very powerful when somebody shares their story, because we're connecting on a human level. I wish I could do all of my interviews in person, because it would be great. I just don't have the financial setting to do that, right? So I do what I have best, and that's connecting over the airwaves. And so, like I said, I've always wanted to share my story on a large platform, and this is where I step into that realm. But I wanted to give people the opportunity to, and I kind of toyed around with it, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, you have a nice beard. Come on my podcast. We're going to talk about spirituality and all these other things." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I came on. I had so much fun. I had a great time. I had a blast. Yeah, Duck Dynasty came on there. Look at that beard. Thank you, thank you. Uh, I pride myself in my beard, and that's a story for later on. But I had so much fun when I got on there, and afterwards, I talked to the guy that invited me onto the podcast, and he said, "You have a voice for podcasting. You have the presence for it. Are you interested in it?" And I said, "Yes." And I started making excuses why I couldn't do it. Right? I was like, "I just don't got the equipment." And he's like, "Do you have a microphone?" I was like, "Yes." He's like, "You have the equipment. Do you have headphones?" I said, "Well, I've got Xbox headphones." He's like, "Use them." And I said, "Well, I don't know the I don't know what software to use on the computer." And he was like, "This is what I use. Use it. It's the best one." Okay. And I just started there, and I started very basic. It's evolved over time. I went from a circular Yeti to a Yeti, a Yeti microphone. I have another one that I have to work on and get plugged in. Is my beard fire retardant? Not yet. It's getting there. It's getting there. But I just wanted to reach as many people as possible and have as many different perspectives on it as possible, right? Because not everybody is an addict, not everybody's an alcoholic, but a lot of people are suffering from mental health disorders and have worked through it. A lot of people have suffered from depression and anxiety. There's a lot of doctors out there, there's a lot of counselors. And not to mention, there's a lot of them in the United States, but there's even more throughout the world. And I've reached out to Europe, Africa, South Africa, Australia. It's amazing, and we all come together and talk about that one thing, and that's recovery.
I've been a guest on your show and diving deep into your story, hearing yours, it all comes together like we have that bond. And what are the shows like? What kind of guests do you bring on your different shows?
So I started out with two. I started out with Recover Out Loud, which is the recovery based one, and then I started out with another one that was called Extraordinary. And it's where we highlight normal everyday people that are doing extraordinary things. I've had friends on there, I've had TikTokers on there. I had a guy that wrote a book about his experiences when it came to the paranormal, and there was a movie made about him. I loved the movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies. And I just so happened to reach out to him. He said, "I'll be a guest on your show." And it was awesome. So I had a blast doing that. But I'm kind of shifting gears. I'm gonna stick with the recovery thing, but I have two more shows coming up that I'm gonna do. One is gonna be a veteran-based show where I talk to veterans about their service and some of the funny stories that a lot of people don't get to hear, and what transition was like for them and what they're doing now with their life. And the second one that I'm gonna start is called I Believe, and it's gonna be about people's belief structures. And I believe it's very important to come from an educational base and talk about what we believe in. And everybody says that religion is a hot topic, and yes it is, but if it's come from an educational standpoint, then we can enlighten people as to why they believe that the way that they do, versus going on an offense and attacking people for the way that they believe or what they believe in.
Oh yes, especially like nowadays. If you watch, and I might get, I've already lost a lot of followers due to LinkedIn sweep, but I just believe we just need to understand why do you think the way you do before we jump and say this is what it needs to be. No, it doesn't. Like, yes, we can have disagreement. And Robert Barry did a whole post about disagreements. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And I think it's really interesting to see that you don't have to be on the same page. Actually, I like it because it helps me see things I never have. And here's something, Dan, I want to tell you something. I'm glad that you brought this up because if we can show that comment, let, I did share this to Sean in the DMs when I was telling him, hey, we're going to be going live on LinkedIn. And he was just like, I don't know. And I said, well, don't worry about this. Let me introduce you to this guy, Chris Hennessy. And so I'm so glad you reinforced it too. We need to tag him in this post so he comes on over. But um, going back to what you are going to be doing, these are really powerful topics and shows. So, how did you get your thoughts on having this new show? Besides the, what was it that you saw that you were like, you know what, we need to have this?
I wanted to do a show about belief structures because the world is now starting to evolve into a place where it's double-sided coin. One side is where everybody is opening up and they're changing their belief structures, right? People are going from Christian to I'm Norse pagan. That's an example. Or you have people that are going from this belief structure to Christianity or Catholicism or all these other ones. So they've been lifelong devout members of Hinduism, and that's a beautiful religion, right? And I think that it's not talked about enough, and there's a huge lack of education when it comes to a belief structure or even spirituality for that matter, because we get fixated on that word Christian and then or pagan or Satanist, and we look at that and we automatically say you're a bad person because you associate with this group, where it's really humanizing the person. That's what I want to do, is humanize the person, right? Because social media has turned this whole thing of religion into something ugly. And you were talking about having a difference of opinions, and I think that's beautiful. I have friends that are Christian. I have friends that are pastors. We have difference of opinions, but we're still friends because we have that mutual respect, that mutual understanding that I'm not trying to change your mind. You're not trying to change my mind. We're just going to talk about this.
And when you talk, you find out there are common areas that you actually agree on. And yeah, there are the differences. So I want to make sure that those who are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and hopefully Twitter, because Twitter likes to play around sometimes. How can we connect with you? Is it possible to book a call with you? Like, what is the best way?
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook. That's my link tree. My link tree has everything. But Facebook, you can look me up under Sean Young. It's a black and white picture of my bald head with my beard, and it's pretty cool. You can find me on Facebook as well under Sitting with Sean. All of my socials, for the most part, are Sitting with Sean. My TikTok is the beard of West Virginia, obviously. But you can connect with me anyway, anywhere. I'm always available to talk, unless if I'm sleeping. YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, Sitting with Sean. You can find my content there. Yeah,
And I did drop the link in the comments. So if you are not connected, you can. Hey, Sean, we need to know what your LinkedIn is, because some of these LinkedIn folks don't go anywhere but LinkedIn, and they will follow you. But what we're going to do now is we're going to carry this conversation onto Instagram. So I'm asking you to come and join, but also I'm going to encourage you to come and join my free Facebook community where I do workshops and we have hot seat moments. We do networking, and I also help you get confident on camera. There is a supportive community who wants to see you win. Plus, if you're still like, well, I don't know if I want to join the free Facebook community, check out my my workshop from yesterday. I actually talk about how to set up your LinkedIn profile. It's just three things that I did and it helped me a lot. So, yes. Hey, Angelique, wonderful to see you. LinkedIn for life for sure. But what we're going to do now is we're going to end this and we're going to go to Instagram. Take care, everybody. And thank you, Sean. Bye.
I